Jameson Williams, will his suspension stop or prevent Brad Holmes from making a tough decision, let's say, on passing on Jalen Carter at 6 if he is available? Jeff, I'll let you answer this one first.
So I'm going to be honest. You'll be a little shocked by my answer because
I'm not shocked if you're going to say, oh, no, I don't think so.
No, I think it will. I do.
Oh, okay.
Wow. I do. I do.
Shit,
I do.
What?
So, I was not expecting
and
that.
here's the kicker with it too. I think Brad Holmes has an idea what he already wants to do, whether he was more interested in Jalen Carter or not. I think he's pretty much decided. I know he tells the media, we're still going through things. BS. Like they have at least a grasp of what they want to do at 6, but with new information, you're allowed to change your opinion. And the new information is now Jameson Williams being suspended. I think there's repercussions of that. And I think Brad Holmes seeing this and seeing the narrative, not even just Jameson, by the way. It's not even just about JMO. Quintez, CJ Moore, Stanley Berryhill, all the staff they got fired last month. I think all that in totality, and then you take into account the drafts this Thursday, and if they take a guy at 6 who has a ton of controversy with him, I do think there's some merit to that, personally. I do. Although I would like to say, no, Jalen Carter, he should still be the pick at 6, which I do believe. I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't think Brad Holmes at least now thinks about it. Like, yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest.
In a 2-week span, we have a players get suspended.
4 players. And 4 staff members.
And then the next week we take Jalen Carter, the most controversial player in the entire
draft. They had
draft.
to have known about this before they even brought Jalen Carter
Yeah, and
in.
they definitely did. Yeah, they definitely
So they
did.
took this information into that meeting
The
with
Jalen
him.
Carter sit down. Yep, absolutely they did.
To be quite frank with you, yeah, I do think this affects the draft a little bit.
So, whether we like it or not, and you guys can call it unfair, you guys can call it a witch hunt. At the end of the day, is it good? And this is a question for all of you in the room. Is it good for not only the Detroit Lions, but you as fans that pay your hard-earned money to go to these games, watch on the NFL Sunday Ticket, or whatever you watch on, your local news station, whatever it may be. You have friends over, you cook barbecues, dinners, whatever it may be on Sundays. Mm-hmm. You work your ass off to watch these games. You work your asses off. You spend your hard-earned money. Is it fair that the Lions and you won't watch Jameson Williams for the first 6 games? Is that okay? Jeff, is that okay?
No.
JB?
It's not.
Is that okay?
I mean, it's not, but I think we can live with it for 6 games.
You can live with it, but is it okay? Is the idea of a player, any player, let alone some of your best players, missing time because of stupid decisions, is that okay?
No.
Is that ideal?
No.
Is that something you want to have to worry about?
I mean, I would like to not have to worry about it, especially with the aspirations that this team has and the goals that we put forward for them to have. So it does suck.
Exactly. Gabby?
No.
So it's not about J-Mo or even Jalen Carter. I need you on the field, man. Jameson Williams is letting down his teammates right now. They all know this. I'm sure they've talked. They'll move on, and hopefully he'll come back, and he'll be a very good football player for this team. That's a small preview of what can happen. And there's even a worse side to this, by the way. See, people like to think, oh, Jameson Williams came back last year. Man, he was explosive. He lined up for like 7-8 snaps a game down the stretch. Yeah, when he touched the ball, he was electric, but it was always on gadgets, and then the busted coverage by Minnesota, I believe, is only touchdown in the year.
Mm-hmm.
I got high hopes for Jameson Williams, but this is a preview of what having this type of player does. It's not ideal. You think it was ideal for Calvin Ridley to be suspended for a full year? You think that made Atlanta very happy? No. You think it made Jacksonville very happy?
And you know what makes it even worse too? Like for Calvin Ridley and for J-Mo, like they didn't have a history of doing anything, out of pocket. Like this was, you think the Lions on a day-to-day basis were like, yeah, we got to worry about Jameson. Like they never.
I think people questioning his character, I think that's a bit much. I think you just have to question his maturity.
There you go. Yeah.
And more than anything, it's like, hello, and welcome to a preview with Jalen Carter. Carter, it may not be the betting side of it. It may not be that, but it may be him not giving full effort on plays. Him not showing up to camp in shape. Mm-hmm. Him not being in shape in season. Getting hurt because he's out of shape. And missing games because of it. This is a little preview of what that could look like. And to answer the question, do I think Brad Holmes passes on him because of the Jameson Williams situation? I actually disagree. I'm going to say no. I don't think so. I think Brad Holmes has already made up his mind, whether to draft him or not to draft him, even with the Jameson Williams information. I don't think it has any bearing.
Not even a little bit.
As much as I want to think that, when you evaluate a player, you're making that decision based on the player, not based on what's happened in the past with your players.
I'm going to use his words. It's a case-by-case basis.
There you go.
And I think they're completely different cases.
They are. They are. One, you're questioning his motor, his work ethic, his commitment. And with Jameson Williams, God bless him, hell of a talent, but I took you 12th overall. And I know the GM said, oh, I really wasn't even considering him playing his first year. I didn't care. Cool. I love you, Brad. That's awesome. And now I'm losing him for the first 6 games of the year. That's not ideal.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, when you draft a player like this, or any other player for that matter, it doesn't matter if it's Jalen Carter. If they're going to miss games, that's a problem. Especially when they miss games without showing you anything. Jameson Williams hasn't shown us anything. He's touched the ball, 3-4 times legitimately in the NFL, and then had a touchdown called back, I believe, against Green Bay. He's shown us the explosiveness, and that's why we're all very optimistic about him, and rightfully so. He's explosive, hell of a player. But doesn't mean much if he's not on the field. You want to use Jeff Okudah as an example. Injury stopped him. Well, he was a bum his first year. And then he got burnt all preseason prior to the injury. So it's not like I was optimistic for him to return.
Right.
All I had seen was shit.
Yeah, Jamo's shown us flashes.
Jamo's at least giving you something, but it's not even much to even consider as a data point. It's 3-4 touches maybe.
Yeah.
So, look, I'm excited for the kid. I think he can be an explosive, impactful wide receiver in the NFL. I don't think it really has any bearing on Jalen Carter because the situations are so different. I don't think we would have had this conversation about Jamo coming out. It was really about his injury problems.
Yeah.
And that's a case where, case by case, Jamo comes in the door, and then you discover, well, I don't like that, and I don't like this, and I don't like that. You don't get the full picture 99% of the time until they're in the door. I use marriage as a perfect example of this. You can date someone, but until you marry them and you're committed to them, and then you live in the same house, and then you have your toothbrushes next to each other, and then you fold your clothes a certain way, and you put them back. Until you go through all that shit, you don't know what it's like to live with this person. You just don't know. You don't know until you're in the fucking ground zero with this person.
You're in the trenches.
Yes.
Yeah.
JB, do they pass on Jalen Carter because of this?
I really hope that they don't, but given the information, I feel like Carter's kind of been off their boards for a while now. I think, as you said, Brad Holmes already knows who he's going to pick at 6, or even if they stay at 6, because there's that rumor that they might be moving up to 3 to take Will Anderson, which would be nice, but more than likely, I don't see that to be happening. So, at 6, I think you're going to get a corner off the board, first corner.
And if they knew about this JMO stuff for a while now, like clearly more longer than any of us knew about it, and you've kind of known for a while that they were already hesitant on Jalen Carter, you don't think any of those two things are intertwined?
I think to an extent.
Not saying Jameson directly impacts whether they'll draft Jalen, but just the fact that you have two players with a lot of question marks. Not saying they're the same question marks, but Jamo's out for 6 games. You know, you just had other players get suspended indefinitely. You let go of a ton of staff members. The Lions last year, where everyone's, second favorite team, still now everyone's rooting for the Lions. Not too many bad storylines out on them. And then in a matter of a couple weeks, you got Jamo, and then now you got Jalen Carter. Like, I think that directly impacts. Not saying, I don't want to say that just because of this Jamo situation, they're out on Jalen, but with everything kind of together, like, I can see Brad being like, I don't know if I want to bring in more, bad publicity by drafting Jalen Carter, because now you'd have a big, you'd have 2 big microscopes zoomed in on Jalen Carter and Jameson Williams this year. Like, I don't know. Part of me believes it, but again, I think the whole hesitancy on drafting Jalen Carter, I think they've had that long, maybe before even.
Well, I think you even saw Brad Holmes' frustration, Gabby, bleeding over in the press conference.
100%. And now seeing all this information after the fact, and I'll give it to Ryan. He called it out before anyone did. that the single sentence that he said in regards to Williams practicing and then jumped from the topic. But the other thing that I take away from that into this conversation is not only the case by case, but he said, I'm a human being evaluating other human beings. And there's going to be some level of judgment in the back of his mind based off of this information. Do I think it will directly impact his decision on Carter? No. But he wouldn't be a human being if it wasn't in the back of his mind when he is making this decision and when the organization is making this decision.
Yeah, I mean, it's not fun. Would you rather have Jameson Williams out there week 1? I know I would. I'd love to have him out there. He's not. Let's say, in theory, you take Jalen Carter. Misses the first 3 games. Tight hamstring. Didn't come into camp in shape. Then comes back. Gets hurt by week 7. Or he's playing like shit and he's out of shape. Is that fun? That doesn't sound like fun to me.
No, it's not fun.
That's not fun at all. But Aiden Hutchinson comes into camp last year, out of shape. What would you be saying? What a bust. We picked this piece of shit out of Ann Arbor. Can't even show up to camp in shape. Can't even give us full commitment. I thought he was a high motor guy. We'd be crushing Aiden Hutchinson if he did this.
But
he's not like that.
There you go.
And I don't have to worry.
So I get that. But there's also the other part of it. Jalen Carter comes in week 1 and starts dominating offensive lines. It's
sure.
Like, well, then, yeah, you're good.
Sure, the data point
there's always
the data point suggests that is very unlikely. With players that struggle with these issues. And at Jameson Williams' position,
I was gonna say,
they're more likely to succeed just because of the nature of the wide receiver position. So with J-Mo, no, it's not the end of the world, but I'm very upset with you because I'm missing you for 6 games. If you can't even give me that, go fuck yourself. Every single one of you.
But that's the scary part. Jameson never had a history of anything. And now he's been out over a year because of an ACL injury. Now he's out another 6 games because of breaking a
decision.
Pretty big rule in the NFL. So
you never know what you're going to get into because these are human beings at the end of the day.
There you go. So that's why
you like to think you know, but you only know so much.
Of course. You can't predict everything that's going to
happen. Remember,
happen.
Mel Kiper said that Jamarcus Russell, fat man, donut eating man himself, was the next John Elway. Remember that. And we all make mistakes.
You know what's funny, too? People don't know about Jalen Carter because I started digging more over the last about week of just his playing his last season at Georgia. Like, people don't, because I hear a lot of the narrative about he's lazy, yada, yada, yada. He played injured through games at Georgia this year. Like, people don't know that either. Like, he played hurt. For a guy who's lazy, like, you'd think he would just not play hurt, right?
Definition of hurt.
He had a high ankle sprain, and he also had a tweaked knee, I believe. I forgot the specific game, but he played injured at Georgia. So I'm just saying, you could say what you want about Jalen Carter, but just because you hear something, please do your own research. Don't just use he's immature because of you heard it. Like, I get the situation with the law, but still, I mean, if you're talking about him playing on the football field, he's been pretty good for Georgia, and Georgia loves him. So I don't know. That's just my opinion on that.